everybody, welcome to the real home of the Cult of Personality, the FTW podcast, the wrestling world in all its laughable glory. This is episode number 155, recorded live on March 12th, 2013 on FTWlive.com. Tonight, we're going to discuss our favorite Paul Bearer memories, lockdown and the rebirth of Aces and Eights, what we hope the return of the Bellas mean, and whether or not we think Frankenstein is the right opponent for Kevin Nash at Monster Brawl 2. I am Harrison. With me, as always, is Joe. Say hello.
Hey, which member of Living Color should I be, since we are the Cult of Personality?
I actually don't know anyone.
Yeah, neither do I. I am drinking the Wells Banana Bread beer that we reviewed on Wrestling with Beer on Saturday.
Good for you.
Good shit.
Rob, say hello.
Hey.
And Garvin, say hey.
Hey.
It's like that forced joke I love. Anyway, please make sure to check out the rest of FTWpodcast.com for more about us and how to get involved in upcoming discussions, as well as the other ways to hear us. You can also find us on Twitter, G+, and Facebook. All those links and more listed right there at FTWpodcast.com. For all you live chat hooligans listening live on FTWlive.com, who's better than Canyon? Well, we now know. This episode has been brought to you by The Official. I'm an official FTW podcast guy T. Get it now, as well as our other merch at FTWpodcast.com/shirts. All the shirts start at $15 and they are fantastic. While you're there, make sure that you can check out and see if you can sponsor an upcoming episode to help us pay for hosting and everything else we do here, like Rob's drinking habit. You can go to FTWpodcast.com/sponsor. We're here to help. We're not here to judge. We're here to help. And sponsor a future episode today. Before we dive in, though, a little bit of admin work. We wanted to take a moment and welcome all the new listeners who are finding us through the Universal Takeover Network. As you probably remember, thanks to us constantly bringing it up, we won the UTN 2013 Takeover Award for Best Wrestling Podcast in the history of the world. Well, at least for 2013. Back in January, thanks to our lovely listeners. And since then, we've been working on a deal with UTN. And as of today, we can officially announce that we are now a partner with the network and will be syndicated on their site and radio network for the next 12 months. So sit back, relax, and hopefully this will be a hell of a ride. All right, enough about us. Let's do some TNA. Rob, here we go. On Thursday, I want to preface this by saying on Thursday night, we had the Lockdown preview show where we discussed the idea, let's just dive right into it, of Bully Ray coming out as the leader of Aces and Eights. How they would do it, we talked about they would have to, reintroduce the idea, warm us up to it. Did you honestly think they would take all the stuff that we talked about and do it in the span of 2 hours?
No, I really didn't. It really caught me off guard. With the way Impact ended, and with what happened through lockdown and everything, it was a really shocking ending. I would actually compare it to when Hulk Hogan joined the NWO for the first time.
Rob, I love you, buddy, but no, that's a little, I don't know about that one. Maybe in context of the situation, yeah, I'll agree with you, but as far as in wrestling history, I gotta give him more to...
The fans nearly started a riot in Texas. They were pelting the cage with beer bottles.
Which is good, because we finally got a reaction out of them, although I heard that it was mostly down to the fact that the arena wasn't mic'd very well. Anyway, so Bully Ray is the champion, and now the president of Aces and Eights, which was a hell of a swerve. I mean, you can't say we saw that coming on Thursday, because we didn't even really think it would happen on Sunday. So
right, we brushed it off because it would...
They'd have to take us... Because the second they start teasing it, we're going to know immediately that's the case. Because we thought it would be
not only that, if they went with the swerve and put Bully Ray in Aces and Eights, it completely wipes out what they were doing with D'Lo Brown, and that happened. Nobody's talking about the fact that D'Lo Brown joined Aces and Eights. It's all about Bully Ray and the swerve.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. Now, do you think that hurt? Well, I guess, the fact that they pulled the thing off, Bully Ray being a bigger get, why not? I mean, is there any reason, Rob, can you mention any reason to really wait to introduce Bully Ray as the president of Aces and Eights when we already got the VP? I mean, D'Lo is kind of a big deal, but like we were saying on Thursday, it kind of isn't, too.
If you were going to do it, if you were going to put Bully Ray in Aces and Eights, I don't see how you could not do it at Lockdown. It's worth killing off the D'Lo Brown storyline for, because of the effect you created. It came out of nowhere. It caught everybody off guard. It was actually perfect timing by TNA.
All right. Joe, do you feel that, Bully Ray coming out as not only champion, but also president of Aces and Eights, good timing for Lockdown, right?
Good timing. They needed to do something big to, give Aces and Eights something.
Yes, because Aces and Eights has no momentum. And has never had any momentum at all.
Hey! When you take the Job Squad and try to put them as one of the biggest heels in the company, come on, man, seriously? It's like they've had a riding lawnmower pulling them around, and that's how fast and how powerful they are. They're
really?
Moving that fast.
You had to try to find a way to get what's their name?
It's not a Mexico's reference, dumbass. I wanted to pick something that could tow something but move really slow.
A turtle, a very large turtle.
Yeah, but Bully Ray doing that with TNA winning the Lethal Lockdown match. What else was this is what had to happen. This gives Aces and Eights the top title. They are on top of the world, even though everybody else is kind of underneath that riding lawnmower.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Okay, Garvin, save us from this metaphor.
Well, the thing is like they needed to get some kind of momentum. Rob, you might completely disagree, but the fact is they haven't really done squat since they came in, and with them losing at Lockdown as far as a group goes, they needed something big to happen for this story to even be interesting. And so I think how they pulled it off was fine. I think it was a good move, and I'm glad they didn't delay after the D'Lo thing, because D'Lo, although it has great implications, again, that's all because we as TNA fans are filling in the dots. It really wasn't impactful across the board. You needed a world champion contender, and they got that. You needed someone who people fear, and they got that with Bully Ray. So yeah, I think this is great.
Okay, now the question about Bully Ray leading Aces and Eights. Okay, going forward, Rob, Garvin laid it out pretty bare there, right there. Going forward, yeah, they had a group loss at Lockdown and everything, but can you honestly still say that you think they're making this up week by week?
No, not anymore. Over the past few weeks, it's become more and more evident that TNA has decided to really start putting a plan together, and that they've been following a plan. It's looking a lot less fly-by-night, and it's looking more and more like they have a plan.
All right. Joe, you still think, I'm sorry. So going forward, the other thing, the 900-pound gorilla in the room is the fact that Bully Ray is still technically married to Hogan's daughter, and Thursday night we're going to have that kind of reckoning going on here. Going forward, do you see that being a major point of contention, or do you think that they're going to try and ride? Do you think that's going to be the dominant storyline? And if so, Rob, who do you put up against Bully Ray? Unless
are you asking me or Rob?
He's asking me. Unless your name's Rob too.
No, he said Joe first, and hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. He said Joe again.
I
didn't changed it halfway through.
I didn't hear him say Joe. So.
Anyway, Rob, so going forward, we have essentially what's going to build to be Hogan versus Bully Ray. So my question is, who do they put up against Bully Ray? It can't actually be Hogan himself, can it? Those rumors of him coming back for the title, do you really put credence to that?
No.
I do put Clearwater and Revival to it. Oh!
God. No, I don't think Hogan is going... I think Hogan realizes that he can't fight for the title. My fear is that it'll be Sting that they put up against Bully Ray. I would like to see them put James Storm, or either James Storm, possibly Kurt Angle, up against Bully Ray for the title.
All right. Joe, what do you think? Do you think that it's basically going to come down to, probably in the coming weeks, Hogan, because, the marriage to his daughter and everything, Hogan versus Bully Ray? You with Rob on that one, that you think maybe, you'd like to see Angle or, possibly Rude or something going up against him? Or Storm, I mean.
I'd like to see those guys go up against him, but the story needs to develop to determine who really should be the guy to go against Bully Ray, because you're going to have somebody win over the affection of Brooke. You know, now that she's been hurt so badly by Marky Mark.
Which is not a storyline, by the way.
No, not according to her Twitter feed. Hey, Fab. The fuck? I mean, really?
Anyway,
so,
yeah.
I want to see the marriage license. That's what I want to see. You know, Hogan's going to get all up in arms. But if somebody can fall in love with Brooke, I'm assuming it's going to be, if out of those two options, it's going to be Angle, because we've already seen Storm's wife in video packages when he took all that time to really stay with his family to determine if he's going to have a career still.
Yeah, and
that's my really bad James Storm impression.
Yeah, but
Sorry
I don't think
about your damn luck.
But if you pick James Storm, I don't think you need to have him win over the affections of Brooke. He can do the cowboy thing and like, okay, I'm going to rescue the damsel in distress by beating the shit out of the bad guy.
I really hope if they're going to do that Bully Ray actually does tie her up and put her on train.
And James Storm has to beat a train. That'd be awesome.
That's more like Matt Morgan, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I like the idea of Brooke Hogan eventually standing at the Bully Ray and be like, I don't need no man, and like actually slapping him. Like it's a Tyler Perry movie.
Like he's not beyond putting a woman through a table. Come on.
This is true. He is not. All right, so look, Aces and Eights storyline, we all have to agree the angle is getting better. I mean, they had that group loss at Lockdown, but as a whole, does anybody really think this thing is stagnant? Or are you really seeing promise for the next three-month run until the next pay-per-view? Garv, what about you? And then Joe.
It's not stagnant anymore. This was the breath that they needed. And this was perfect. I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those things where, you know, it was very predictable that was the direction they were going to go. But at the same time, you know, despite us basically saying that they shouldn't do it because they waited so long to do it, it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be. You know, the thing is that we talked about this for like the last couple of weeks and said if they did it, it would be, it's too late. It's too late to turn Bully, but I think it was a perfect move. So I'm totally for what they're doing.
Okay. Joe?
I think Garvin hit the nail on the head. It was stagnant, and if Bully Ray did not come out as the head of Aces and Eights, or if Jeff Hardy had retained, it would have been a done angle. I mean, yeah, you could have Bully Ray come out on Thursday and say, "Oh yeah, well I'm the president of Aces and Eights." It wouldn't have had as much impact. It would have been relatively weak. And I would expect Sting or RVD or somebody to take the title off of him. Like that night.
Okay. Rob, what about you? I mean, you're looking forward to the next 3 months. Rob, before I kick it to you, I want to ask you one question. So the thing that's been kind of like building the push behind Aces and Eights for this entire time has been who's really behind it, who's the man behind the mask. This past week, that is no longer the case. So do you still hold promise for this storyline going forward when it's basically down to, okay, you can't dangle that carrot in front of our face now. Now what?
Yeah, because first and foremost, in the Lethal Lockdown match, you had a good match on both sides. It wasn't a dominating win for TNA by any stretch of the imagination. With the way Aces and Eights has a habit of ambushing and tilting matches in their favor, you can use that to build tension. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, you've got Bully Ray, who's not just the leader of Aces and Eights, but he's also the world champion. So you've got him versus Hogan and trying to reclaim the TNA title.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that TNA can do with this to keep the storyline interesting.
All right, Garth?
Well, I just want to remind you that they said that there was a higher power. Bully Ray isn't that higher power, do you think? Do you think he's the top guy? Or there's got to be someone else that they're still, you know, holding back. Someone like who's backing it financially or, you know, is pulling the strings. You know, there's something. There has to be someone else, right?
I love the idea of it being Shane McMahon, Joe. I'm with you on that. Yeah, maybe. It's just how many are off? I mean, how how many more times can you move the goalpost here? I mean, if you're going to dangle the carrot in front of us, you're just going to keep budging it further and further away every single time. So if we find out who the higher power is, it's going to be, no. There is a super higher power who is even taller than this one is.
Well,
I can just see it now. You're gonna hear a gong, some monks chanting, "Oh my God, it's Pope Benedict! It's Benedict! He's not retired. He's the head of Aces and Eights." I'm Catholic and I made that joke. Thank you.
I'm not, and I loved it.
And another thing to remember too, Taz is the only person in Aces and Eights who has made any mention of a higher power.
No, I want to say they mentioned it one time in the ring.
The higher power is Velvet's pigeons.
Yeah, when Taz was in the ring.
Oh, okay, yeah, that might be the case, yeah.
So, yes, there could be somebody else yet to be revealed, but at the same point in time, that could just be, I don't know, it could just be Taz running off his mouth.
No, I like the idea of Taz just making up storylines as he goes right there at the mic. All right, so that's enough about Aces and Eights. We got to talk about the other stuff that happened. So, Gail Kim, so what are you guys looking forward to most? I want to kick this to Garvin first. Gail Kim versus Taryn Terrell, or anything they could possibly do with Velvet's Guys champion.
I am looking forward to most Taryn Terrell versus Gail Kim. I think how they've built it up has been very intriguing, and how they pulled it off at the pay-per-view was fantastic. Not just in the ring, but that backstage segment was, there was just there was so much emotion. You don't normally see that type of emotion from the Knockouts. At least you haven't in a long time. So yeah, I think they totally sold that storyline, and I can't stand Velvet Sky as champion. I'll say it.
Okay. Rob, do you agree? I mean, would you think Taryn Terrell and Gail Kim is far more compelling than Velvet Sky holding the gold again?
Right now, yeah, I think Taryn Terrell and Gail Kim is a lot more interesting and a lot more compelling, if for no other reason than just for the fact of, ever since she's come in to TNA, people have been kind of waiting to see when she's going to work her way from being a ref to an active wrestler is. We might be starting to see that transition now.
Okay, Joe, I mean, do you like the idea of that transition? Put Taryn Terrell in the ring, in some tights as opposed to the ref uniform?
Yeah, I've been waiting for that since she came over. I mean, shit, if she can kick the ass of Drew McIntyre, she can kick the ass of any knockout in the Knockouts division. Yeah. I love the idea. And I liked her in the ring before she left WWE, but they didn't give her enough time to really show her abilities.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Matt Morgan, coming out of lockdown. We got Slammiversary coming up. If you had to pick something, you had to do with him as far as going forward. Rob, what would you do with him?
I'd have him actually follow through on his threat. I'd have him do kind of what Samoa Joe did a couple years ago in the Bound for Glory Series tournament. Just start fucking taking everybody out and pushing his way into the world title picture that way. Who knows? Maybe that's who Hogan sends up against Bully Ray. Maybe Hogan comes to Matt Morgan and says, all right, you want you want to be given respect? Fine. Show me what you can do. Get the world title back.
That seems a little awkward to me. I
It would be awkward.
Morgan, but
It would be awkward, but, at the same point in time, I think I've thought for a long period of time that Morgan should be in the world title division. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see him get a push.
should. But, I mean,
I'd like to see him get a push towards a world title match one way or another.
Absolutely, but for me, the obvious route is through Hardy, not through Hogan. Just the idea of it seems weird that you would take Morgan, who's essentially a heel at this point, have him team up with Hogan and go against Bully Ray, who just backstabbed the company. So for me, it just seems like if Morgan was a face, yeah, but he's not. I mean, he's very clearly a heel, and his heat is being built towards a heel. So, I would just have him go up against Hardy. And you got to have Hardy do something now that he's not holding the belt.
That's
give him the rubber match.
yeah,
That's true.
Joe?
Morgan versus Hardy would be good, because Hardy can flop. When you get hit with the carbon beard print, it's just over.
The carbon beard print.
Carbon beard print. No, I mean, the only thing that I think that I don't like about Morgan right now is the blonde hair on his head and the black ass beard on his face.
Oh, you don't? Oh, you'd rather he go with the Hogan route and only dye that little bit?
No, you fade, man. You fade the blonde, getting into the beard.
So it's like a gradient. Starts blonde here, goes black down here. So you have like that awful brownish poop stain color going right around his cheeks there.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do that and you use the right gradient tool, I mean, it'll be pretty sweet.
No, just do some stripes. He just blonde come down to a spike, and then the brown takes over. Or he could draw pictures in it, so it's like a brown Pac-Man eating dots of blonde going up to his head.
Okay, now that's just stupid.
Oh, fine. Then let's move on. All right. Gar, what do you think about the idea? Matt Morgan going to Slammiversary. Do you have him go against Hogan? I mean, do you have him go with Hogan against Bully Ray? Do you put him against Hardy? I mean, what do you do with him? He's too dominant right now to let him languish. You got to do something with him. I
cannot see him partnering with Hogan. I just can't see it. There's no way that he would. Well, I mean, like Hogan might ask him to, and he might have Sting ask him to, but there's no way that they would just cast that storyline to the side, But as far as who Morgan faces, I would say Hardy for sure. That seems like a good route. I can't really see any other faces up there in the world title race other than maybe a James Storm. But I don't know. I mean, okay, I'd love to see him go for the world title, but not as long as Bully Ray's holding it.
Okay, great. Well, let me follow up kind of on that point. What about the idea, okay, you putting Matt Morgan against Hardy or something, whatever. What about the idea that Hogan is in a panic because they don't have anybody to go up against Aces and Eights? I mean, what about that? Do you find that compelling at all, going to Slammiversary, where Hogan's like desperate for somebody and they don't have anyone?
Sure. And I think, as far as who would fill in that role better, it's not Morgan, it's Austin Aries would fit in that role better.
Oh, if you had to make the flip, yeah.
I don't think so, because Austin Aries, during his heel stretch, has already said, hey, I fought your battle. I fought Aces and Eights for Hogan. I fought Hogan's battle, and I got shit on for it.
But the thing
Morgan's heel turn right now is, I want respect. I want what was promised to me. So if Hogan and Sting finally say, okay, we're ready to give you what we promised you, but we need your help, I think you could kind of work with that a little bit easier than you could Austin Aries.
Well, sure, but the thing with Austin Aries, I mean, like one of the main issues that stands between Hogan and Aries right now is that it's policy. Hogan doesn't want all the titles on one guy, and Austin Aries is going out to get it. So I think, in the respect of this storyline, I think it would make more sense for Hogan to bend some rules to get the title off of Aces and Eights versus let go of his personal gripes with Matt Morgan after everything Matt Morgan did to him and his shop and everything like that.
That's a fair point, but let's start migrating away from there and actually talk about, I don't know if you guys remember, but TNA used to run a cruiserweight-like division where they would go after a particular title. It was known as the X Division, from what I'm finding on Wikipedia. Anyway, they had a match about it this past Sunday. Okay, we keep talking about Christian York and how good he looks coming out of it. Rob, that X Division match, I mean, it wasn't that it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't like blow the doors off. It wasn't something that really should have been, considering how little build it's had. You would expect something that's like, okay, let's remind folks why this matters. It was a decent match, but Christian York, do you think he's maybe shouldn't be in the X Division? Do you think they should move him out, do some mid-card stuff with him, maybe tag him up with someone? Or do you like him in the X Division? Do you think he just needs a little more time?
I like him in the X Division right now. He definitely has the talent to work outside the X Division. But what really frustrates me about TNA is you have these great matches. Granted, it wasn't spectacular, but it was still a solid match from the three guys. Kenny King nearly broke his damn neck at one point in the match. But like you said, the match had no build, and it's like, have this great match, and then we'll go 1, 2, maybe even 3 months, and then we'll get another X Division match.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere along the line, TNA needs to say, okay, well, one of the things we've been telling our fans that's good about this 3-month build is that we'll have time to start putting X Division matches on there. We need X Division matches.
Right. Garth, I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you think Christian York shouldn't be in the X Division, or do you think they should maybe, or do you think like Rob does, he just needs a little more time to get adjusted to it?
Well, to me, I think he's miscast. I think he was way too slow. He did not really bring that spark that I think we saw in him during his gut check match, during the matches quickly after that. Yeah, it just seems like he's not built for the X Division as we want the X Division to be. But could that be because he's not been on TV for 6 weeks? Probably. He could definitely help from some ring time, as any of the X Division guys could. I mean, look at Kenny King. Mm-hmm. Kenny King looked pretty sloppy in that match, at Lockdown. The only one that actually came prepared, it seemed, was Zema Ion. The rest just looked sloppy. So, yeah, for now, I'm willing to be cautiously optimistic with Christian York that he can fit in that division and he can cure the issues that we have with the division, but at the same time, he's looked bad. So
okay. Now, as far as Lockdown as a whole goes, we were talking about it's the first real pay-per-view that we've had with the huge build-up. It's the first of the new breed of pay-per-views that TNA is putting together. How do you feel about the pay-per-view as a whole, going forward, or this concept as a whole? I mean, Lockdown, do you feel it was successful? Did it give you hope for the future, Garv? Do you think that maybe, TNA is still kind of feeling it out, or are you like, you know what, if this is where they're going, I am more than happy with it?
I am not necessarily happy with it, but I'm also not used to the schedule. I think it's still too early to call if this 3-month build is proper, only because it just felt so weird. Everything felt so slow, and they still had lots of questions that needed to be answered on the go-home show. Especially look at matches like Joey Ryan versus Joseph Park. Like, that came in, I want to say Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, if you have so much time to build up stuff, they could have done it a lot better. But as far as this pay-per-view went, I thought it was mostly average. You had some high spots. You had some moments that will make Lockdown stand out, like the Bully Ray turn. But otherwise, it wasn't what it should have been.
Okay. Rob, do you agree with Garvin's sentiment that the pay-per-view was average and the build was below average, but still give TNA some time and see what happens?
I think the pay-per-view was a little bit better than average. I'm not going to say it was a great pay-per-view because there were only a few matches that stood out, and there were a lot of things that were kind of new. Like in past years, the Lethal Lockdown match had a roof that would come down after all 10 men were in. You'd have a roof come down, and there were weapons there. I was kind of bummed to see that they didn't do that this year.
Scarf?
Yeah, real quick, Rob. From everything I read, that was set to go. Where they did have a roof for the lethal Lockdown, but they had some mechanical issues, so they couldn't lower it. They couldn't lower it.
Okay.
So, according to people in attendance, according to people in attendance, it was there.
Okay.
So.
Okay, that's cool. Now, on another front, I have to think that it's starting to work. You saw that we had record attendance for a TNA live event.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd was energetic. They were involved, especially during the Bully Ray turn. So there's a lot of promising things here. I share a lot of Garvin's same concerns, but I also see a lot of promise that this can work going forward.
Yeah, Rob, I'm with you on that one. The reason why I think this is going to work going forward is all the things that TNA pay-per-views historically have lacked, this one had in spades. It had a massive crowd that was hugely into the match. It had a huge moment at the end of the pay-per-view. These are all things that TNA's kind of struggled with going forward, things that they can't really control. I mean, things they can't really control, like the crowd and everything like that. Shifting to the 4 pay-per-views a year is clearly so far the right move. I have no doubt that once TNA Creative get their feet under themselves about what they can actually do with this 3-month span, this canvas that they can really put a story on, I have no doubt that they'll be able to do some amazing things with it. Because like we've said in the past, TNA storylines traditionally have been pretty good. They've had some stinkers, but for the most part, they've known what they're doing with some of these things. And I just think they need to get their feet under them. All the other stuff that they can't control worked in their favor with this. And so I have no doubt that these will lock down. I think, like Garvin, average on a wash. I think reducing it that way is kind of a mistake. I think you really got to break it down, in a granular fashion. But going forward, I'm holding nothing but promise for Slammiversary. And
they're taking your advice, because I think the next big pay-per-view they're doing is not just in Boston, but actually on a college campus.
Yeah.
So they're taking your advice finally too.
Yeah. They texted me. They texted me thanks. It was literally Bischoff just said thanks, bro. Nice idea. Get the deets later, and then that's all I did.
Yeah. Did someone say 3 minutes? What?
What was weird, it was like at 4 a.m. too. So I don't know why then, but whatever.
Yeah, and let me just end with this note. I am not saying I was completely against everything they did or that it was average across the board. I just said it's more of, it's still new to us. I wasn't necessarily sure how they were going to do everything, and to me it just seemed awkward because I wasn't used to it. And if you read Nick's blog on FTWpodcast.com, I mean he was totally for everything, the build up and how all the matches played out. So I mean this thing is just something that we're all going to have to get used to. It's not just creative that needs to get used to it; it's also the fans.
No, that's true too. That's an excellent point, Garv. I don't want to seem like I'm being simplistic with your viewpoint. So, speaking of, anyway, Garv, speaking of you and your opinion of the pay-per-view, you won the predictions.
Yeah.
As far as, right now, it's sitting at, you and Joe are tied at 4, Lee and I are tied at 5, Rob's got 3, but Rob's in the lead with total pay-per-view matches predicted correctly.
Which is what 61. Counts.
Well,
yeah. No, it is what counts.
I know, but I like keeping track of the total, whoever predicts the most in each pay-per-view. Anyway, so yeah, you got 61. I think second place is Dead Heat. Actually, second place is a tie between Joe and Lee, because Lee wasn't on Thursday, so he didn't get any of the predictions, so Joe made up some ground. I do want to sum up with, as far as our opinions on Lockdown, I think this perfectly puts it in. Jesse L. wrote in saying Lockdown was a pretty awesome pay-per-view. Not much else to say about it other than the couple matches that had zero build-up but were still pretty good. The ending is what I've been hoping for, and now I'm proud to be a fan of TNA. It's usually hard to say that. You can't, if that's the sentiment out there, and I'm starting to think it in some degrees it is, you can't help but call it a success. And I'm looking forward to 2013 being one hell of a year for TNA.
It's not hard to say you're a fan of TNA. You just have to be ready to endure criticism from idiots and
it's not hard to be a fan.
Marks.
It's not fan to be a fan of. It's not hard to say you're a fan of TNA. It's hard not to laugh afterwards. I'm kidding.
And that was your TNA week in review. Now we're gonna roll right into WWE, and we got to start on a somber note. We really hate doing this, but Paul Bearer passed over the week, and I thought it'd be nice if we just all kind of took a moment, real quick. Let's not bring the show down. Everybody, we were all united as fans of wrestling, and Paul Bearer's been there since, as far as I can remember. He was there since I started watching wrestling, and we're just gonna go real quick. Our favorite Paul Bearer memory, and mine, I don't really have a specific one. My favorite memories were way back in the WWF era when he was this was like when Undertaker was like, I want to say like year 4 or 5. Just watching Paul Bearer just be so creepy to the camera. I mean, he was a master at when they do that slow pan around him and he had that urn and he just looks at the camera with like this stunned disbelief and like just like almost like incredulous anger that they would put the camera on him. And I remember being just a little kid and being so creeped out and intrigued by him. And his interviews, oh man, with Mean Gene were fantastic. And yeah, and I'll never, for the life of me, I'll be 85 years old remembering the way he would say Kane. I will never ever forget the Kane. I'll never ever forget that. All right, let's just go from left to right on my screen here. Joe, if you had to pick down your favorite Paul Bearer memory.
Well, I've got a few. Like when Brother Love turned the Undertaker over to Paul Bearer for managing. The time that Taker and Paul Bearer put Jake the Snake Roberts in the coffin No, but I mean, Ultimate Warrior in the coffin, and then Jake the Snake helped Warrior get over his fear, and then it ends up being that Jake's a heel. That was awesome. And one moment that I didn't remember seeing, I guess it was around WrestleMania 20, that they showed on Raw last night.
Yes.
Where Paul Bear's in a dress, and he was supposedly hiding out, like, from I forget who.
Okay,
he was hiding out, and he's in a dress and a blonde wig, and somebody's being a cop. I forgot who. And they're like, "Oh, what have you been doing here? Why have you been hiding, Paul Bear?" And he's like, "Hiding? Me? Like, what's with the dress?" And he goes, "What dress?" And he's stroking his blonde wig, and all of a sudden the lights go out, and it comes up, and like Yokozuna, it was Yokozuna's manager, whatever.
Mr. Fuji.
I don't think was that Mr. Fuji in the video?
Fuji,
yeah, it was Mr. Fuji.
Didn't look like Mr. Fuji in the video. Just another Asian guy.
Whoa! Hey.
Mr. Fuji always looks fatter to me, shorter, with the hat, where he
had
looks
the
like
hat
he's...
on.
Joe, there are so many more Asian people than there are any other people. Do not piss off that demographic.
Okay, he looked like the guy who threw the shoe in Austin Powers. Anyway, this Paul Bear's like, "What dress?" Oh, and the lights go out. Next thing the lights come up, and then Fuji's wearing the dress, and Paul Bear's in a suit going, doing that chin tuck thing where his neck roll just comes out further than his face.
Like it's a mating ritual.
Yeah. I mean, he could really look at the camera and just really turn your stomach. Like, you just feel so much evil and pus.
Creepiness, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's great. Garv, if you had to pick your favorite Bearer memory.
I really loved the whole debut of Kane and Paul Bearer being there, and the whole Kane and Undertaker. That whole build was so fantastic, and they showed a bit of that video last night as well on Raw. But Harrison, I'm completely with you. Paul Bearer was the first wrestler at all that I ever felt fearful of. Like I always loved wrestling, but when he came out, like I'm so creeped out by him. And later I just loved him. I loved everything he did, and for sure my favorite manager of all time. Just added such a great touch to everything.
Garv, I think you're right there. I think that is a sign of how you are as a wrestling fan when you make that transition from being scared of Paul Bearer and what he did, for us as our generation of wrestling fans, to becoming endeared by how good he was.
Yeah.
I think that's almost like a rite of passage almost for our generation. Rob, what was your favorite Paul Bearer moment?
I can remember as a little kid being scared of like The Undertaker, and one of the things that really happened, and Paul Bearer was one of the things that really happened that really pushed that as a manager, because he'd have that urn and he'd hold that urn up, and no matter what had been done to the Undertaker would just sit up. And it was and it just really pushed the idea that Undertaker wasn't human.
Yeah.
See, I tried to get my dogs to do shit like that, and it just
you just got on the box for treats.
And as I grew older, that's when I really began to appreciate what Paul Bearer did as a manager. He really took Undertaker and Kane and made them scarier.
Absolutely. Garv, you got stuff from the live chat?
Yeah, from the live chat, when they kidnapped Steve Austin and the Undertaker tried to sacrifice his soul.
And it was awesome.
His return at WrestleMania 20. That seemed to be a favorite of the live chat, actually.
Yeah.
Especially like when Kane opened the casket and Paul Bearer was there with the urn. Man.
He gets out and he starts throwing it at him.
Yeah, there's just like every time he was out there is someone's favorite moment. So.
The urn spotlight cannon.
Yes, the urn spotlight.
Where you take it off and it's just like blinding, like light just beaming out.
And then they never gone into it. Then it was just it. It was the power of the urn. No, he hands down. I mean, I always feel weird memorializing people right after they pass, because it seems like we always oversell the person in order to help the wound scab over and for us to move on and heal from it. But in the case of Paul Bearer, I cannot think of somebody. He's got to be top 5 of all time most charismatic pro wrestling personalities in history. I mean, the list in front of him has got to be so short.
Yeah, and thinking about it, with He's a guy who, you could tell if you followed his blog at all, which I did, ever since his wife died a few years ago, he has just been so down. So at least, for those who have faith in the afterlife, there's that, he could be with his wife, he could be happy. Then you also, at least this is a passing of a great, and we can respect the great, because he didn't do any, he didn't do any wrong. And hell, he lived his gimmick. He actually had a bachelor's degree in mortuary sciences or a master's in it. But it's not something like the Chris Benoit thing where we were really sad and then all of a sudden all the shit came out about him.
Yeah.
It's just a genuine love for this guy who's entertained us for years, and there's nothing corrupt about it.
Exactly, Joe. Thank you. Nothing corrupt about it. Yeah. Okay, so
it helps.
So it helps. Okay, so let's close the book on that. Next, we're gonna have to debate what CM Punk did on Raw, and it's important to understand what we're gonna be talking about next. In no way does that impugn our opinions of Paul Bearer. We've memorialized him, we've tributed in our own little way. We have to move on, and I want to do that with the understanding that we're all going to be safe here, and we're not going to say anything, and we're not going to demonize somebody for their opinion, given what's just happened. So on Raw, CM Punk basically started bashing The Undertaker with the urn after the urn made an appearance. Joe.
It was Kane, actually.
I'm sorry, Kane. My bad. Joe, I have my opinion on this, but I want to hear you and Garvin specifically first, because I want to know if you guys could change my mind.
This was a fantastic segment. Initially, it was very jarring, and I was very, very mad because I didn't start watching Raw until this segment was over. So I didn't actually get a chance to watch it until this morning. And even though I knew there was a big backlash and stuff, I watched it, and I'm like, I got to keep an open mind about this. I was pissed for like 30 seconds. But if you listen to what CM Punk says, he never once comments on Paul Bearer. Not once of the segment. He says, I just want to offer you condolences on your loss at WrestleMania. He totally made it. I'm attacking you, Taker, because you happen to be out here. I'm verbally attacking you, and you're losing at WrestleMania. That's all it was you are losing at WrestleMania. It was Taker who sold it as it's his moment of sadness, and I can't believe you interrupted that.
Yeah.
And with the urn sitting there and everything, like, I think they should have waited another 30 seconds or something to kind of let the moment sink in, that give it a full X amount of time. It just seemed too abrupt, too quickly for them to bring Punk out, but I get it. And I think the segment really worked, especially with the Raw active segment with Kane and everything like that. And
yeah. All right, Garv, I mean, what do you think about the segment? You with Joe on that one? That, for the most part, if I'm reading your Joe correctly, it was basically a success?
Well, there's two parts to this. There's the intro, where, they basically gave, where Undertaker came out with the urn in the middle of the ring. They had like a good 10, 15 seconds of him just kneeling in the ring, as everyone looked at the Titantron, where it said, rip Willie Moody. Then Punk came out. Okay, so people were pissed at that he didn't get enough time. People were also pissed that, that Punk basically used that as, ropes to bounce off of, basically, to attack Undertaker. And then they're also pissed that Punk used the urn at the end of the show. I am totally for everything that he did. I thought it was fine. That might make me callous. But the only thing that I had an issue with was that when he hit Kane with the urn, I swear, to me, it looked like ashes came out. And I cringed for a moment just because I thought, oh my God, they've just been implying this whole time that Paul Bearer is inside this urn, and then ashes go everywhere. But
see, I never once got that vibe that Paul Bearer was in the urn.
Well, but storyline purposes, they're not, they're not saying that, but just the implication of everything. The urn is representing Paul Bearer, and then all of a sudden these ashes come out.
Yeah, but if they open up the lid, the light comes out. Can like a blue shimmering ghost version of Paul Bearer walk around and be like, oh yes? Like Obi-Wan Kenobi and shit?
Yes, King!
Use the Force, Phenom!
Garv, now hang on. They've done stuff where stuff has come out of the urn before. Ashes, things, all this stuff. This has happened before. I do get your point, though, about it being a metaphor for Paul Bearer being in there because, Taker's basically memorializing for him. Anyway, continue, and then I want to kick it to Rob.
Yeah, it was just that 1 5-second cringe that I had. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. But it wasn't a bad thing. It was just a momentary lapse of like, wow. But at the same time, like, just think about all of the other uses of the urn that they've had over the years. They've constantly used that urn as a weapon to either attack Undertaker or Undertaker to attack someone else. So I think I'm totally fine with that. I'm fine with them doing what they did in the beginning segment because, again, Punk didn't do anything bad against Paul Bearer. All he said was, Undertaker, I'm sorry for your loss, ... at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Okay, Rob.
It.
Rob, how do you feel about it when you saw the segment? I mean, did you cringe?
No, actually, I think Joe hit it right on the head. I mean, CM Punk never said anything bad against Paul Bearer. He never attacked Paul Bearer. You can make a bit of an argument that he could have waited a little bit longer, but I thought the segment was pretty good. And let's be honest here. If we're sticking with WWE mythology, Undertaker buried Paul Bearer in concrete.
Okay, well, yeah,
So,
in a fridge too.
I mean, it's not like Undertaker can stand alone and say, "How dare you insult a man's memory that I buried in concrete?"
Well,
Damn
he
it.
didn't do it on Monday. All right, here's the thing. The segment itself, I really can't. I don't know. For some reason, I just can't bring myself to have an opinion on it. I don't know why. It's weird. But the one thing I do find weird, and I gotta say, I do find something wrong with this, is the idea that people were debating this segment and using the phrase, and this is a phrase I cannot stand, Paul Bearer would have wanted it. I'm sorry, I gotta call bullshit on that. I mean, I don't get why you can sit there and say that without a shadow of a doubt, whether or not someone would like that now that they've passed. You don't know. I mean,
right. It would be one thing if they would have asked his wife, but I mean, if she was still alive, if there was a spouse.
Yeah. Okay,
if there's a spouse who said yes, that's okay.
Or something, or if it comes out, like WWE comes out later and says, or like if there was a well-known interview out there where Paul Bearer says, if I ever pass, I want the top heel to use it as leverage against Taker to build WrestleMania.
Right. It's not like it's the CM Punk thing with Lawler.
Yeah, exactly.
Lawler could say yes or no.
Yeah, exactly. So I find it hard to. I'm sorry. You can't hide behind that one. If you want to debate whether or not it was good or bad, fine. Just don't use that. Garth?
Well, yeah, we don't know for sure, but what we do know is that Paul Bearer's sons were in attendance, so he did have family representatives there. I'm sure that they were part of it. That's possible. I'm sure they were talked to, but at the same time, look at Paul Bearer's history. He's been in wrestling since the 70s. All the guys that go back there will basically say the same thing. Like, you look at Lawler. Lawler was okay after his mom passed away for them to bring that up in storyline because it's part of the business. It's something they do to bring real life situations into a storyline to cause what's happening now, cause people to talk, and that's what they wanted. And I think it did a great job.
I gotta be honest. I mean, it's logically sure, or I mean, you could make that. You can go, okay, because of A and B, it's possible for C. But people every smoker that I know says that they know that it could kill them, and yet they still do it. And I have no doubt that we could all sit here and say, yeah, Paul Bearer would have loved it because he was in it since the 70s. He was in it since the beginning. He's seen that they've used everything, but no one asked him. He never said. Sure. And so I'm sorry. I cannot take the idea of Wrestling Fans 775 on Twitter saying that, well, it's good because this is Paul Bearer would have wanted this. And it was fantastic. And he would have loved this segment. It's like, no, dude, you got to come up with a better argument than that because that's bullshit.
Here's a better argument than that. Take a look back at all of the controversial segments that he and Undertaker and or Kane were involved in. Look at all of the stuff that they've done. I don't think, while I'm not going to be arrogant enough to say I know for sure Paul Bearer wouldn't have minded it, I think when you look back at his career, I think you can safely make the assumption that Paul Bearer would have liked the segment, maybe even loved it.
Can you really? Can you really, Rob, sit there right now and say that you can safely make the assumption that a man would want you to use his death to sell tickets?
If that man happens to be Paul Bearer, yeah.
Hey, Rob, if I die, you can use my death to sell tickets.
There we go.
Awesome.
Now we have it on record. When it happens, then you people can make that argument that Joe wanted us to use it to exploit a show. That's fine. I'm just saying we never saw Paul Bearer do it, so I got to say, that's just a weak-ass argument. There are better ones out there. All right, Garv, real quick, and then we got to move on.
Outside of this part
The blue
of it,
hat is ridiculous, by the way.
you're ridiculous. Outside,
Because it's over your headphones, and it makes you look like you have some kind of like weird cancer.
outside of this conversation, we all agree that this made the match, right? Because before this, we had nothing.
There was nothing. I don't know what they
Right.
would have done without it.
To me, it didn't have any different. It didn't make any difference.
Really? You don't think it added extra heat to it? I mean, other than the streak? I mean, what does CM
Not
Punk...
much. I don't think it actually added much. I think there were too many other... The fact that Paul Bearer, I don't know, it just, to me, it didn't... Punk didn't seem to really do anything other than beat Taker with an urn. That would have happened regardless, in my opinion.
Okay,
if
but
they would have brought the urn around.
I mean, the thing is, though, the fact that it has happened, we now have this... Okay, we have before last week. We have our show last week, and now we have our show this week, Joe. The fact is, we're going into CM Punk versus Taker now, and Taker has a reason to be in the match. Other than 21-0, what else does he have?
That's all he needed going into it.
Really? You thought that was enough to really help bring this to the next level?
What were you going to do? Have Vince actually kill off Paul Bearer in order to get a storyline?
That's the thing.
Vince
It's like,
McMahon would do it to sell tickets.
Anything
Oh,
can
yeah,
happen
it
in the WWE.
oh yeah, Vince would kill Paul Bearer. That, I have no doubt. We can talk about whether or not we'd use Paul Bearer's death to sell tickets. I know for a damn fact Vince McMahon would. And he wouldn't make it happen. We'd find Paul Bearer's body in the East River, and it would be like, oh, what a travesty. By the way, I have this whole setup over here in the ring, Taker, if you want to go down there and have Punk bash you a little bit. No doubt. No doubt in my mind that that's what would happen. All right, we got to move on. Shield. Yeah, this storyline, I'm sorry, we can all agree this is ridiculous. So, the Shield said that WWE would need to create a super army and take him down, which as of right now is getting Big Show, Orton, and Sheamus. How?
So Orton's a superhero now?
Well, that's the thing. Big Show, I mean, so Big Show, Orton, and Sheamus is a better team than Sheamus, Ryback, and Cena? I mean, how is that comparable?
I wouldn't put Orton in that group anyways, just because
Well,
he's a
unabashed.
shitty talent.
Oh, don't be modest, Rob. You're an unabashed Orton fan. I mean, you put him in a whole different tier with people like
Rob's tag team, Orton Batista.
Yes. Yeah.
Best tag team ever, right there.
Oh, we've got Rob actually saying it. Hell yeah.
All right, mark it, Garf. We got to edit that into something. All right, Joe. I mean, how do you feel about this? You're really going to tell me that Orton, Sheamus, and Show are a bigger team to face than Sheamus, Cena, and Ryback? I mean, Ryback, I can kind of give you that one, but Orton is better than Cena?
I think this is a mistake. Because I have a feeling the Shield will be losing at WrestleMania, and for him to lose to Orton, Sheamus, and Show.
When they had already beaten Ryback, Cena, and Sheamus. That's the thing. It's like
Yeah,
this should
I
have
mean,
been the first
that was a
team.
much more powerful team, a more versatile team.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
They
right
might-
now, promos are going to take like 45 minutes for their like intro.
well, they might be thinking, the WWE might be thinking that it's a physically bigger team. I mean, Big Show himself counts as 1.5, maybe 2 wrestlers.
So it's not
You've
really
got-
3-on-3 anymore. It's
You've got Orton, who's one guy, and then you've got Sheamus, who's a big guy.
1.2 maybe then. So you're looking at 3 on 4.75.
Maybe,
Is
yeah.
what you're looking at? All right. Garv, how do you feel about this? Do you think that this should have been the first team and Cena, Ryback, Sheamus should have been the second? Or do you think we're being too hard on this?
I think we would have been too hard on this. If
Award-winning show, people. Award-winning show.
I don't know how we won an award.
I think
We printed it out.
yes.
From Garvin's mom.
Well, we don't have it physically. So, anyways, yeah, I think this match totally had the potential of being awesome up until 2 weeks in a row they triple powerbomb Big Show. Big Show is like your unstoppable monster in this match, and they've taken that away. They've made it obvious that Big Show can't compete against these guys.
Did you happen to see Roman Reigns' face when they started getting Big Show ready to be put up for the power bomb, and he's just like, fuck, oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to do this. We are not going to be able to do this.
But you know what? He owned that.
Yeah, he did.
Totally owned that. He didn't need the assistance. Once it got Big Show actually elevated, he needed no assistance. He could have held him up there for a day. Props to Reigns, man.
He did look like a 4-year-old about to get a flu shot. Yeah, he did not look like he was looking forward to it. Okay. So, I mean, however this match ends, I mean, if the Shield wins, it's like big whoop. You still didn't beat, you beat Ryback and Cena. So yeah, of course you're gonna beat Show and Orton. But if Show, Orton, and Sheamus win, what does that say about Ryback and Cena and Sheamus? I mean, for me, it seems like really clumsy booking when the idea should be they got to take the Rocky angle. They got to have Sheamus trying to turn Orton and Show into a viable team. So then you see these promo segments where, they're out like doing team building exercises, like playing paintball, like all those shitty corporate things that people do to build teams. They're playing bumper car. What's the bumper car thing with the ball? Joe, you wanted us to do it once we came and visited. We throw the ball into the
whirly ball?
Whirly ball, yeah, they gotta do the whirly ball event, and they all have like themed t-shirts, and they're all there, playing company volleyball. They gotta do that stuff. Beat them as a team, but they're not. Well, that's funny. I think it'd be hilarious to watch Show get into a bumper car and wheel his big ass around.
I'd like to see. I think it would be hilarious sticking with the Rocky montage. Watch Big Show chase after a chicken.
Wow, that would be hilarious. That would be one of the best segments ever. It is you.
Comedy gold, and you encourage them by saying, "Hey, if you catch it, that's dinner tonight, man."
All right, so that's that one. Now, so we have Cesaro, Miz, and Barrett all kind of be building up here for WrestleMania. So the question is it going to be Cesaro versus Miz or Barrett versus Miz? And what do you think they're doing with Miz and the two mid-card titles for WrestleMania, depending on how this thing kind of falls apart? Rob, I mean, if you had to pick, would you rather it be Cesaro versus Miz or Barrett versus Miz?
I'd rather go Cesaro versus Miz. I think those two would have the better match. Cesaro, I think, has a really good gimmick that I think really needs to find some traction among the fans, and The Miz might actually be able to help with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Joe?
I would rather see Miz versus Cesaro. One, because they can work well with each other, but two, Cesaro doesn't really seem to have any other options, where Barrett's got
Bo Dallas.
He got Bo Dallas. You can get Jericho involved. You can, after that horribly failed segment on Raw. I mean, hell, you can have him go against Brad Maddox, for fuck's sake. Anybody can go against Brad Maddox. Miz versus Brad Maddox. There we go.
Oh.
How about you, Garf? Miz versus Brad Maddox?
Who can produce the worst segment? Go.
These segments with Miz have been pretty bad. I'll give you that.
I don't know. I don't know what I want to see more. I guess I want to see
Brad
Miz...
Maddox. Oh, Brad Maddox versus Biggie Langston.
And a wrap-off with Roddy Piper as the referee between them. You tell me you find some...
R-Truth is going to do the wrap-off.
You find me something more cringeworthy than having a Roddy Piper in the ring again. And I'm like, oh, wow. All right, Garf, go on. Sorry.
Cesaro versus Miz is the only one that makes sense because they've already built it. The idea that it might be Barrett versus Miz or even Barrett versus Miz versus Jericho is after what happened, last night on Raw and the match that we're going to get next week, which is that triple threat. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it would be really odd for them to basically have Miz versus Cesaro with no real, climax. no real like end point, and then just stop it and move Miz on to Wade Barrett, because Miz, he isn't good enough to move up.
He's near and dear to my heart for me to make that opinion, so I'm just gonna move right along.
He used to be. He used to be good. He used to be great. I loved him as the champion, as the WWE champion when he was facing John Cena, but since then, no. Not face Miz. My God.
Yeah, face Miz has been kind of like, at the beginning I was holding out hopes for it, but lately it's been kind of rickety. I guess is the best way to put it. All right, so as far as Raw goes, we have the New Age Outlaws returning, taking on Rhodes Scholars, who they defeated. But the rest of the... Well, okay, so do you really think New Age Outlaws are back? Or do you think this is going to be one of those things that they're just charting them out for sentimentality?
Are you a freaking moron? They're not back. Seriously?
They could have been. They could have been.
This is the thing. When they made their triumphant return, there were some weirdos out there.
It was old school Raw. It's not like this was like, the night after WrestleMania.
But Joe, I get your point. But the thing is, it's rare for after an old school Raw the week later that we see them again. So it's one of those things. And the idea was keep the run even before old school Raw. The idea of maybe New Age Outlaws come back. I mean, they still got the crowd going and everything. Look, moving on.
If you're going to do that, you might as well put the WWE Championship on X-Pac.
Accept the premise of the question, Joe. Come on. So you just think it's ridiculous all around.
I think the idea of them coming back and winning a title is completely ridiculous.
All right, Garv, because you were the one that was pretty hot on him last week.
Well, I do want to point out that X-Pac was just signed.
He was. Are you serious?
That's what you get.
Yeah. But, I think it's just, look how sad the tag division is that we were like, oh my God, maybe the New Age Outlaws can take the title.
Yeah. At least the Hornswoggle's not involved. Let's just count our blessings there.
That Hornswoggle.
That's Hornswoggle. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Hey! Okay, so New Age Outlaws, I mean, they're done. I mean, did you want them to come back at all in any capacity? Do you like the idea of it? I mean, Joe, we have your opinion. Garv, Rob, I mean, real quick. I mean, do you have any...
Initially, I wasn't for it, but when I saw how well they got the crowd response and how good they looked in the ring, I'd have no problem with them making a brief, and I can't stress the word brief enough, return.
Okay.
To help get the tag team division going.
And that's the thing.
Garvin.
It's look how awful the tag division is. That yes, it would be nice to have a spark, and who brought that spark? The New Age Outlaws. So yeah, if it's not them, who else? Who else is there? Who else is there to take the titles off of Kane and Bryan? There's no one. There's no one that they're actively pushing consistently.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. For me though, I mean, when they came back on, and everyone's, they got such a great crowd reaction. Well, so does a T-shirt cannon, and I don't want to see that in a wrestling. I mean, I don't want to see that in a match.
Yeah, especially because China was the one who used one of those consistently.
Actually.
Yep, and that brings you back horror stories, doesn't it, Harrison?
Shut up, Joe. Moving on.
Millions of dollars, baby. That's who's going to take the titles off of Kane.
Ryback versus Henry. Possibility out of WrestleMania. The idea of these two guys, I mean, they had a run-in with each other on Raw. It could be an interesting match. The only compelling thing is Garb did this cool thing where he basically did his rundown on the show, and he incorporated, some pictures and his opinion and everything. And I gotta agree with Garb, and I gotta agree with you, buddy. The idea that Ryback can't lift Henry is a lot more compelling than watching him do it.
Yeah, I don't think I actually want to see this match. But the idea that quite possibly Ryback could not pick up Mark Henry, because Mark Henry is at least 100 pounds heavier than Tensai, and he struggled with Tensai.
Well, the question is, did he struggle with Tensai because he actually struggled with Tensai, or did Tensai not help him? That I'm not worried about. Just conceptually, I like the idea of, Henry being Ryback's white whale. Not the best metaphor, but
that's Harrison at FTW155.
I'm sorry, Harrison.
It's a Moby Dick reference, all right? Not so much a shot against Henry. Anyway, The point being, it would be his immovable object. It would be the idea that that's the one thing that Ryback cannot do is lift Henry, do his little march around the ring, and then fall back.
We'll have to get Ryback a little peg leg after that match.
According to his girlfriend, he already has the peg leg.
Okay, all right. Rob, what do you think? I mean, are you with Garvin and I on this one? Or are you with Garvin that you don't want to see the match at all?
I think it could be an interesting match, actually, although I share concerns that I don't know if Ryback is physically strong enough to pick up Mark Henry. But it could be an interesting match if they build it up properly and if there's a reason for the two to be fighting other than just like, hey, here's two big guys. Let's throw them in a ring and see what happens.
I'm holding no doubt that that's exactly what's on the whiteboard in Connecticut. Joe.
I actually want to see the match, and I actually wouldn't mind seeing a triple threat, and not that this is going to happen, but seeing a triple threat where you add in Brock Lesnar.
Really?
Yep.
The problem is that Ryback and Henry would kill Lesnar. Wait a minute, that's a good idea. Throw Lesnar's ass in there.
Well, I mean, you can really hype up Henry's gold medal, or not gold medal, his Olympic experience. Granted, it was for weightlifting, but still.
Strongest man in the world.
You got the strongest man against, a former UFC champion. Against
former NXT competitor.
Yeah, against Skip Sheffield, the silverback Ryan Reeves.
And Panera Bread orderer bad at her. Anyway, Garvin, what do you think?
Well, the only other argument I have against this match is Ryback has still failed to win a pay-per-view match. So do you continue to bury him, or do you, well, not bury, I guess bury is a harsh term, but do you have him lose another match, or do you have him go over Mark Henry, who just returned and we are hoping big things for? There's no good outcome here.
Well, the idea of Big Show had that, his WrestleMania streak, and that whole thing. So maybe they're transitioning that to Ryback, like they're going to make him endearing. It's like, oh, he hadn't won a match yet. Oh, I'm going to root for you, buddy.
Well, what if it's not actually a match? What if it's some type of competition, much like
a sumo match?
Dino Bravo and the Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah,
and they get picked a fan from the crowd, and they put him on the back, and they got to do push-ups.
Or like a strongman.
The birth of Earthquake.
Yeah, I know. Or like a strongman competition where they gotta throw car tires over cars or something.
Yes, because we need more filler at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Let's okay, WrestleMania. Let's air an episode of NXT.
It's not like we need filler.
They did that on NXT.
Although, as an argument to what Garvin was saying, I think you could have Ryback win and not have it hurt Henry too much because of how Ryback's been doing outside of pay-per-view events, the fact that Mark Henry just got back, and it'll be easier to build a new streak for Henry or something. So you could have Ryback end his streak against Mark Henry with minimal collateral damage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you there's a way you can book it where it doesn't kill Mark Henry at the same time, but Garvin, you're absolutely right. They really don't do WrestleMania. All I can think of was Machine Gun Kelly last year shilling for Cena. I don't want to see something like that again. All right, Garvin, last point.
Real quick from the live chat. Ryback versus Mark Henry in a game of catch. First person to drop Zack Ryder loses.
That's awesome.
And then every single goddamn fan that writes in about Zack Ryder being at New Jersey can finally shut up because he was in WrestleMania.
The problem with that is WWE already dropped him, so it's not like I think catching him is causing the loser.
All right, so Rhodes Scholars have officially had more tag team matches since, quote, breaking up than singles matches. Real quick, do you think that we should consider them do you think that we should consider them in the tag team championship picture at WrestleMania? Because obviously we're losing New Age Outlaws to, well, old age in reality. So do you think the idea that Rhodes Scholars could come back and win the gold at WrestleMania? Just real quick, we're going to do this kind of Ask FTW style. Rob, go.
Yeah, I think they could. They're one of the best tag teams that the WWE has right now, and I'd like to see the WWE get behind that and push them.
Okay. Gervin.
Not as long as they lose every tag match.
All right, that's fair. Joe.
No way. No. The fact that they do want to push these guys separately, the fact they've got these guys essentially parted ways, and you've got Cody's enamoration with Caitlyn. No, it's not going to happen.
Enamoration?
Enamoration. I'm making up words. If Harrison can do it, so can I.
Yeah, but when I do it, it's charming. Anyway, WrestleMania 29. Join us Saturday, April 6th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FTWLive.com for our WrestleMania preview conversation. For now, here's what we know. Officially, we have Rock versus Cena for the WWE Championship. We have Del Rio versus Jack Swagger for the World Championship. I gotta write that article about Jack Swagger. We have CM Punk versus Undertaker in Streak versus, well, I guess what Punk's bringing to the table. Well, we don't know yet. Triple H versus Brock, I'm sorry?
Beard.
Okay, Streak versus Beard. Triple H versus Brock Lesnar. Then also we have potentially Sheamus, Big Show, and Orton versus The Shield. Ryback versus Mark Henry. Probably going to be booked. Haven't officially happened yet. Speculation matches we got lined up are probably Team Hell No versus potentially Primetime Players or some other tag team for the Tag Team Championship. Either Cesaro or Wade Barrett versus Miz for either the U.S. or the IC Championship. We still got Jericho wheeling around in there somewhere. And we have Tamina versus Caitlyn, pretty much a lock for the Divas Championship because they're the only two that we've really seen on TV in a while, other than the Bellas, and we don't know what they're going to do with them yet. Let's move on to Ask FTW. It's time for Ask FTW, where you ask, we answer. You can send us topics to talk about via email to questions@ftwpodcast.com, on Twitter by using the hashtag AskFTW, or by posting on our Facebook wall or in our Google Plus community, or even leaving a comment on the site. You have no excuse, people. Get them in. They're always fun. Fry420X on Twitter basically tweeted us saying, I disagree with the concept of a non-title match. If you beat the champion, you should become the champion. It's an interesting thought, and I do want to get your opinion on this. The idea that every time the champion is in a match, should the belt be on the line? Joe?
Not necessarily, but I love the idea. Just like UFC, man. You're in the ring, you're defending. I do like the idea, so I'm done with that.
Okay. Rob?
Yeah, I am totally with that. If you're a champion, every time you step in the ring, the title's on the line. If you can't deal with that, you don't deserve to be champ.
Okay, fair enough. Garth?
I like the idea, but I don't know how that would, if we would still feel that way after about 6 months. I mean, because what are they going to do? Just do tournament style matches up until the pay-per-view, and then the champion, competes? I think that would get old pretty quickly.
Okay. Joe?
I just want to clarify that, I mean when they actually have a match, not like when they go to cut a promo and so this isn't the 24/7 hardcore rules.
I missed that so much. That was awesome.
It was.
I mean, yeah, conceptually I like this idea. The only problem I have, like Garvin's saying, is it locks him in, and I think we're get tired of it after 6 months. So maybe, like how TNA does the fight night. If it was like one of those things where if you're called out a certain way, or if on fight night you have a match, the belt's on the line. So it's like you get called out regardless. I like that idea, but taking a hardline rule like that it just kind of paints him into a corner a bit. All right. LuTube Wins on Twitter said, considering Taker matches have gotten, basically how they've gone in the past 2 years, does this year's streak match need a special stipulation? Last year we had the Hell in a Cell. Year before was No Holds Barred, and I think a couple other things, like False Count Anywhere, I think. The first Taker Triple H match. Anyway, do you think that Taker versus CM Punk this year at WrestleMania needs a special stipulation? Rob?
I don't know that it needs one, but I want to see a Buried Alive match.
Okay. Joe?
It doesn't need one. Taker's past that point. But if you're going to do one of those types of matches, I would love to see an Inferno match.
Okay.
Inferno match is also good.
Okay. Garv?
I like both of those options, but Buried Alive would probably be the way I would go if I was booking it.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely with Garvin and Rob on that.
Yeah, if you're going to end the Undertaker streak, what better way than a Buried Alive match?
Well, I was just thinking of the symbolism with Paul Bearer, because as we all know, Paul Bearer would have wanted it that way. So
right,
it makes sense, to do it on WrestleMania. I think it was.
Why not do a casket match instead?
Casket match could also be good.
Yeah, casket Buried Alive. The symbolism there. I mean, as long as it's there. Maybe a casket match.
I've never understood that just shoveling a tiny bit of dirt considered a win.
Well, it's in the
Shove in a
hole.
tiny
I
bit.
mean,
Just a handful of dirt, throw it in, and that's the end of the match. I mean, really?
Have you watched? I forget what pay-per-view it was. Have you watched Austin Stone Cold versus Kane in a buried alive match? Austin actually got into like a fucking bulldozer and dumped a shit ton of dirt on top of Kane.
Right. That's like the one exception. Every other time it's like dirt. Oh, like that's not enough to keep a human being down. That's not enough to make a sandcastle with.
So, Joe, you're looking more of the dirt bukkake as opposed to the money shot.
Exactly. You coat that fucker.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure if you wanted just the quick and dirty, or if you wanted the full Japan is what I wanted to know. All right. Robert Carmichael wrote in saying, if you're a WWE star, one of your loved ones and your family member or someone you care about most in the wrestling business passes away, would you let WWE use them as a storyline, be fine with it, or would you disagree and leave them out for a respectful manner? What do you think about that? Put yourself basically in Taker's shoes, which is what he could have said and would have been a lot shorter. But, Robert is great, so we'll roll with that one. Rob, speak to you.
I would probably want my family left out of it, just as a matter of respect. That's just where I fall on the matter.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go to Joe. Joe?
You almost said Rob, didn't you?
Yes, he
I'm
did.
between you and Garvin, but we'll go to Joe.
Well, none of it. Garvin, I don't start with an R. So,
No.
but I want to say that I would do what Rob said and keep my family out of it. If somebody in my family died and they wanted to use it for storylines, I would say no. It's a matter of respect. You don't do that.
Okay. Garv?
I would let them do it because if, the thing is that if I'm in the wrestling business, I'm in the wrestling business because I love the wrestling business and I know how much this will help someone. This will either help a feud, this will either help someone, be over as a heel or over as a face like it helped Chavo.
This is coming from the guy whose wife still can't tell the difference that Taker and Kane aren't the same person.
Yep.
By the way, aside, expect an investigative report on one of the next Shotgun Saturday afternoons about that.
Yeah!
Are you literally going to make her sit down and watch a Taker versus Kane match and go, look, there's no camera trickery. They're hitting each other.
We've seen fake Undertaker and fake Kane in the past, so yeah.
Really?
Yep.
I doubt that. Okay,
I'm starting to kind of believe that maybe it's a possibility.
So she's starting. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna make a joke on what Steph may or may not be doing to you right now, or to get you to think that. So I'm just gonna say, probably not. I mean, you do have a point in that. Look, the fact is, if this thing between CM Punk and Taker with the Paul Heyman thing or the Paul Bearer thing, if it sells tickets, that's eventually going to go into the company, which is going to help them employ people. So, loosely you could say that Paul Bearer, them using Paul Bearer's death in this way, will help someone get a job and maybe potentially feed their family. So there is that side of it. Me, I definitely wouldn't. Because I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the person would do it. If they put it in writing, absolutely. But I don't like making decisions for other people, except for on the show. Because I like having a little bit of power go in my head. Now that the Bellas are back, that means Karma's coming back to finish her feud with them, right? Rob?
No.
No.
We've seen this before in the WWE. Just because the Bellas are back doesn't mean they plan to bring Karma back.
Okay. All right. Joe. Go, Joe.
No, there's no way Karma's coming back, and I think it's a shame that they brought back the Bellas, but at least Cena and D-Bry are going to get a little nookie on the road. That was not out of their relationship.
On the road.
All right, Garv. Garv, what do you think?
It's absolutely happening. Marketing to the record books. Karma's coming back, guys. This is it. This is the only time it would make sense. So it has to happen.
Take her in the draft now, bitch. Take her in the draft now.
Number 1 pick next season.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for another photo of her training to surface, so that she gets a few more thousand Twitter followers. No, she's not coming back. I don't even think the Bella is coming back is such a great idea. I mean, we were working we're getting so far without this archetype of professional wrestler, and now they're back. And so, I don't know. It remains to be seen if they've improved, if they actually, learned how to wrestle, but I doubt it. Going into WrestleMania, Heyman, what match do you think Heyman versus Brock want Triple H to compete in? Don't say bra and panties. Rob.
If I could pick any match that the WWE has used, I would pull out the oldie but goodie, pull out the Lion's Den, force Triple H to fight an MMA style match against Brock Lesnar.
Wow. Okay. Joe, what do you think?
That's a great idea, but I'm hoping for an evening gown match. No, no, Rob's right. Rob's got a great pick. I love the idea.
I always thought, Joe, it was your thing. Whenever we talk about what kind of match you want to compete in, you bust out the pepper on a pole, and then that's
which is funny because the live chat is saying Stephanie on a pole match.
Hey!
I
Very
wouldn't mind
nice,
seeing
very
that,
nice.
but that would break PG.
Primetime players out the side of the ring, millions of dollars. Make it rain, make it rain, make it rain. All right, Garv, what do you think?
Well, I love the idea of the MMA style match. That's the one that I would go with. But I think I'm the only one that remembers that weird out of place clause in Triple H's contract where it said no MMA matches for him. I don't know if you guys can remember that, but like he signed this huge contract, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, and that was one of the clauses that jumped out at me. That was like that he can't compete in an MMA match.
No, I hadn't heard that before.
So
that's why this won't be a sanctioned match, and then it's valid.
Yeah, let me do some research on that before we close out the show.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
But the thing is that that would be a really interesting take if that is the case and he does have that clause. We've been all talking about the idea of bringing in like a reality era type thing. Bringing in some kind of real life situation like that into the story would make sense. It would make total sense for the Triple H versus Brock Lesnar feud. So, yeah, I'm going to say that's what they're going to do.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was kind of thinking just like a, Falls Count Anywhere match or anything kind of, banal like that. But I really like the idea of a line set match just because it kind of fits. And I think Heyman would be just salivating at the idea considering how we did Brock's first match back, and that had Heyman's fingerprints all over it, and how they booked it, and how they prepped the beginning of the match, and how they did that whole thing with the spotlights and everything. Hands down, yeah, I think a Lions Den match would be pretty spectacular if they managed to pull it off. All right, do we have time for the Monster Brawl
Yes,
review?
we do.
We do? Well,
Yes, we do.
Rob, hang on. It's 9:30. Garv, do you want to get into that, or do you want to postpone it for next week?
We could postpone it. I think I'll be fine with that. I just want to, I did pull up a search result. He cannot work or perform in any capacity for any martial arts organization. That's what I remember. So I'm kind of off.
It's weird, the style of match. That makes a lot more sense than as opposed to a MMA style match. I mean, that seems kind of weird. But yeah, I can understand him not being able to be farmed out to any other organization, i.e. Batista, because we all know how well that went. All right, so I do want to give a quick shout out to our FTW, and we have a review of Monster Brawl from Rob and Garvin. We're going to be doing that next week, though, because we are full up this week, all because of TNA. Thank you, TNA. But I do want to
TNA. We spend a lot of time on WWE too. Don't put it all on TNA.
I was promoting TNA as a good thing. We spent a lot of time having an honest discussion in a frank and direct.
But then our fans bitch that we spend too much time on TNA and not enough on WWE.
Oh, they'll never be happy.
We have been spending more time on TNA, though. That's just a fact.
Yeah, which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
I agree with you. I think it's a good thing, but then
I'm very glad
fans seem to disagree with that.
Yeah, TNA's doing a much better job of getting all of us involved and interested. So I major props to them. Major props.
I will say that I am looking forward to Kevin Nash versus Frankenstein at Monster Brawl 2.
Yes.
All right, I do want to give a quick shout out, FTWpodcast.com. You hit the blog tab, a lot of great stuff on there. Again, Nick, coming up. Basically went into wrestling reviews and why star ratings turn shining reviews dull. The only complaint I have is he used the word erstwhile incorrectly, but that's okay. That's perfectly pedantic, and I can't fault him for that one. But I do want to say that, I had a great article on that, mostly because I agree with him 100%. Garvin did an awesome thing. If I were in charge of WWE Creative Part 1, I am willing to admit this is probably going to be different than History of the World, and there will be a Part 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Okay, good. Yeah, it was pretty cool. He talked about you talked about what you wanted to do as far as the mid-card and things like that. Did you drop cruiserweight or light heavyweight?
I actually used both terms.
Like.
Yeah, I used both
terms.
terms.
Okay. But that mid-card, that direct light heavyweight type of thing, division, so to speak. Also, you did a poll on why Lady Tapa was the right choice to be signed by W. Yeah, awesome stuff. Definitely check it out. FTWpodcast.com/blog. And if you want to, leave a comment, yell at some people, do anything like that, there's a comment section right there. You can tweet us, everything you want to do like normal. Garv, what do you got before we get into Wednesday?
Yeah, and I just want to throw out that we are doing the live blog on Raw, and that seems to be something that a lot of people like, so we're going to continue doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, we talk about this like that. Well, I mean, hey, if you guys want to watch it, if you guys want to read that, we'll be more than happy to put that up there for you. All right, time for Win Fail.
Women wrestlers aren't getting paid? Why do you do a job?
Here is your win.
You do any job,
and fail
is to fucking get paid
of the week.
Yes, Kevin. All right, Rob, your win of the week. Go, Rob.
My win of the week has to be the Bully Ray turn after winning the world title. That was just epic and really pushed TNA forward, I think.
Okay. Joe, your win of the week.
I've got two of them.
Of
course I do, because I rule like that. My first win is the Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez We the People parody, because they did a great job of just parodying Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter. But I think the thing that really shined about that whole damn segment is Ricardo Rodriguez. The guy is money. I'm like, I cannot watch him enough. He's just... And to get him talking as much as he did, bam! Awesome. My second win of the week is Gary's comment on our Facebook page saying, "Ha! I beat you, Harrison, you suck cock." That is the most ridiculous thing I've seen on Facebook in a good long while.
He's got to be... he's English, and he's so bad at it. I don't get it.
He's so bad.
I don't know either. Maybe.
Have you seen his other comments? It's like a cat threw up on a keyboard.
The dude's... I think Lee would call him a chav. I don't know.
I don't even know. Okay, Lee... Okay, that's another thing. Lee... It's worse when Lee does those things. Even, 1 degree of separation is even worse than that. I have no idea what the hell. We get a translator in here. I mean, what is a chav? I've heard it before. He said it a few times on Facebook, and I never know what it is.
It was cute, though, when Gary corrected himself on one of the mistakes he made in his typing. Just the one.
All right. Just so you know, according to Urban Dictionary,
according to Wikipedia,
according to Urban Dictionary, chav is a young lad about 12 years of age and 4.5 feet high, basketball cap at 90 degrees, in an imitation Adidas tracksuit with trouser legs tucked up to into his socks. Basically, a chav is the stereotypical
don't say it.
white kid trying to be a rapper.
Okay, thank you for not saying that word. I hate that word. Yeah, it looks like it's a fun stereotype. All right, cool. I guess that's what he is. Anyway, he beat me, evidently. So good for him. All right, Garvin, your win of the week. Go, Garvin.
My win definitely goes to it definitely goes to Rhodes Scholars segment prior to their match against New Age Outlaws, where they basically did their version of the New Age Outlaw intro. It's just fantastic.
All right, my win of the week is I gotta go with Rob a little bit on Bully Ray's turn. It was fantastic, but I do want to say Lady Tapa getting the gut check contract. That match that she was in was fantastic. They both deserve to get signed, but I'm glad she was the one who got signed. She is talented. She's a little rough around the edges, but I think she could be fantastic, when they bring her up, if they ever bring her up from the, I can only assume, bottomless pit that is OVW and that no one ever comes from. So if she does make an appearance in the Knockouts division within hopefully the next 10, 15 years, she should make a pretty good impact. Garv, you got live chat wins?
Yeah, from the live chat, we got Bully Ray's turn and win. TNA Lockdown as a whole. Dolph versus Daniel Bryan this week. The tag title match at Lockdown. And the biggest crowd in TNA history. That was fantastic. Also, AJ's wet shirt on SmackDown.
Stateside, though. They've had bigger crowds in England, haven't they?
No, they surpassed
Really?
it, according to Dixie Carter on Twitter. And furthermore, the Chicago show, they are already opening up more seats.
Free ones out. There you go. 4 pay-per-views a year. Go figure.
Are you going, Rob?
That remains to be seen. I'm trying to get tickets.
They just made them available, so they're all yours, man.
Buy them now. Buy them now while you're on the show.
StubHub, man. StubHub.
All right, fails of the week. Rob, your fail of the week. Go, Rob.
My fail of the week goes to us postponing the Monster Bra review until next week.
We wanted to give you enough time, or else we'd have to rush you, and then it wouldn't have the same kind of momentous occasion.
I suppose that works. I'll accept that.
It won't have the same.
Thank you for sparing my bruised ego, Harrison.
I'm political as fuck. Is what I am. Joe, your fail of the week.
My fail of the week is essentially twofold. One, the fail is bring out Yoshitatsu just to get squashed. Why even bring him out? And two, who the fuck did Kofi Kingston piss off? Because Mark Henry just tore him. I mean, that wasn't even funny. Mark Henry owned his ass completely.
Yeah, I don't know. Kofi, we were talking about Kofi being the next, finally having some of his breakout stuff late last year. And yeah, I don't know what he did, but he did something to somebody backstage because he's just he's on a shit list. He's at Drew McIntyre level of shit list is what we're talking about.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, really?
Be realistic.
Yeah.
He's been getting this in the build to WrestleMania.
He didn't get beat up by his girlfriend, who now works for another company.
Well, but getting beat up by his girlfriend wasn't like a storyline defense. The WWE didn't plan on that happening. They just had to kind of go with it.
Yeah, WWE's kind of dealt a shit hand and had to. Anyway, Garvin, your fail of the week.
My fail of the week is the fact that during the Dolph versus Daniel Bryan match, they spent a majority of the commentary talking about how much of a slut AJ is. That was it. That was pretty much all I got from commentary during that match. That was a great match, and they ignored the entire thing up until the last 2 minutes. The rest of it was AJ's a slut. She's been around. Oh, and King wants to tap that.
All right, I'm not going to refer to that.
I would agree with King.
No, I agree with Kane too, as far as the tapping portion of this conversation. But
yeah,
as far as the, hey, let's ignore this great match in the ring to just disparage AJ. What does AJ have to do with that match? Really?
No, I have no idea. My fail is the city of New York for having every disease known to man in it, and that they decided to leave me with it when I flew out. Thank you, New York.
You have syphilis.
Thank you so much. I have that and consumption and Ebola and countless other dysentery. Yes, every 1920s disease. I have that. Apparently,
yeah, and don't forget to take your box of bullets and go kill a couple buffalo.
I miss Oregon Trail. Well, if I do that, then we'll know that Garvin won't get us into a car accident when we go to Toronto. Live chat fails. Garvin, go.
Robbie E. being on the screen. Gut check, as we aren't going to see the new winner for about 10 years. The Brad Miz Jericho promo. And Wade Barrett. Don't forget Wade Barrett in there as well. How obvious the Bully Ray impending heel turn was. The Bella Twins returning. And Nick agrees with me about the whole Dolph and Bryan commentary crap that happened. Also, the IWC not understanding that the president is the top of a biker gang food chain and there is no CEO. I guess I fall into that category as well. So shut up, Nick.
I only know because I watched Aces and Eights. That's how you know you ripped the storyline.
Sons of Anarchy.
Thank you, Rob.
Sons of Aces and Eights.
Sons of Aces and Eights.
And I'm with you, Harrison. If I hadn't watched Sons of Anarchy, I wouldn't know that the president is the top of a motorcycle gang.
Also known as TNA's research material.
Exactly.
The research notes. In fact, I'm willing to bet, the research notes are when Sons of Anarchy hit Netflix. That's when they were like, dude, we got to do a storyline like this.
Isn't that about the time they actually did the storyline?
Yeah.
I think so, actually.
Actually, it was about 3 months later. So about the time it takes for, let's say, a group of about 15 to 20 creative writers to watch a few seasons of something on Netflix is about the time it took from when that hit Netflix until we saw it in TNA. Garv?
I have one last fail. I almost forgot somehow, but that is I haven't figured out how to get rid of the commercials that are actually on Raw, not outside of Raw.
What do you mean?
Oh, I don't know, the 50 movie previews that they have to show during every single Raw.
Oh, I see what you mean. That stuff. Okay. All right, that's not a problem. Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from with that one. But that's WWE, branching out and trying to milk us for even more of our own money because they haven't got enough of that. All right, so make sure you join us at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday for Shotgun Saturday afternoon. Garvin's going to be spinning the what is the old DJ term?
Records.
Some DJ term. Some cool DJs. Rocking the jams. Jamming on his DJ box thing over there, doing music and discussing wrestling. You got any topics lined up yet, or are you still going to see how this week plays out?
Still prepping some topics. However, we are going to feature some Mozart by request from Lee.
Lee requested Mozart?
Yes.
What's wrong with Mozart?
Apparently the music was too loud for Lee, and it made him rather upset. So Mozart is in.
Did he tell you by banging on the wall with a broom? Is that how he told you? The music's too loud, you damn kids.
Him and his droogs are going to have a spot on the old dairy, and they're going to... It's like Clockwork Orange over there, right?
Do want to remind you guys that you can check out the latest on the FTW draft by hitting FTWdraft.com, see what's going on there. If anybody... you're more than welcome to do any trash talking. Thank you again for doing that on Facebook. We'll be keeping tabs on that and giving you guys results as we go.
Speaking of the draft, Garvin, do you want to make your announcement now, or?
I have until midnight.
Okay.
Yeah. But, we are in the playoffs, so, there's 8 teams left, and, it's a fantastic time to be up on top. Right, Harrison?
Yeah, gotta love being bottom. A bottom. I mean, one of the bottoms.
Stop talking about bottoms when you're talking to me.
I'm like the Chicago Cubs of the fucking draft.
No, that's Nick.
I've got one question for you.
Me or Rob?
Are drafts allowed or trades allowed at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was no trade deadline put in place other than the only Friday through Sunday. Or I'm sorry,
Gotcha.
Friday through Tuesday.
Okay.
Good. All right. That's the show. Check out FTWpodcast.com for more information about us and how to get involved in the future. Our new and totally improved site is on there with links to our iTunes page, so you can rate us higher than any other podcast. We got 6 stars, people. Let's see if we can get 10. You can also click and find other ways to support us, sponsoring the show, things like that. If you do want to sponsor the show, please make sure to go to ftwpodcast.com/sponsor. And while you're at the site, check out all the shirts we have available at ftwpodcast.com/shirts. Also, check out the blog. Awesome stuff going on there. I want to give a special shout out to the live chat. Live chat hooligans, you guys are fantastic again. Each and every week, you make the show what it is. We record every FTW podcast episode on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's -5 Greenwich Mean Time at ftwlive.com. See you next Tuesday.
Later.